Hey friends, it's Christy, and I'm thrilled to be back guest designing with My Favorite Things. Today I'm going to be making a holiday card using the brand new Deck the Howls stamp set, and I'll also be using the Candyland paper pack. I've stamped my images out on some Copic friendly cardstock with black licorice hybrid ink, and I'm going to be coloring with my Copic markers today. And I'm going to start with this cute little pup over on the left with the antlers and the little ornaments hanging from them. For him, I'm using E50, E51, E53, and E55. I started with just the E51 and the E50 on his muzzle, adding a little bit of shadow and then blending towards the center. And now I'm going to come in with my darkest shade for the rest of his body. That's the E55. So I'm going to lay in some shadows alongside his back and on his feet and on each side of his head just to give it that rounded appearance. And then I'll begin to blend out with the E53. So when I'm coloring larger areas, I tend to push down with the side of my marker just so I have more surface area covered. But then when I'm going in those tiny areas like around his face, I use just the very tip. For the little dog in the center, I'll be using C0, C1, C3, and C5. And starting with his muzzle, I laid in the C1 for my shadows around the outer area and then blended toward the center with the C0. Then I'm going to move on to the outside of his body, and for that I'm starting with the C5 and laying in my shadows up on his head just like I did with the little brown dog, and then also under his little scarf since he has that, and some pom-poms as well. I'm going to blend out with the C3, but for him I'm going to save a little bit of room. I wanted some more contrast since the C3 is still kind of a dark shade. I finished him off with the C3 on the bottom half of his body since it is a little bit more in shadow since his head is kind of sticking out and he has that scarf on. But on the top of his head I'm going to finish everything with the C1. For my Scotty dog, I'm going to switch to some warm grays since I wanted each dog to look completely different from the others. So I'm laying in some shadows with the W1, and then I'm going to blend that out with the W00. I'm not going to fill him in completely though. I'm going to let that color fade off to white. And I'll also color any other white objects on the card with those two shades. For the doxy, I'm using E23, E25, and E27. I'm starting with my E27 and doing any shadows underneath his scarf and on the backs of his legs, again around his ears and under his hat brim, and then I did a little bit just to accentuate his nose right there at the tip. And then I'm going to begin to blend that out with the E25. The two legs that are on the opposite side of his body, I colored in completely with the E25 since those would be cast in more shadow, so they would be a little bit darker. But for the rest of his body, I'm going to finish him off with the E23. So I'm just blending over the edge of that E25 and then filling the rest of him in. And I colored the little reindeer headband in with the E25 as well. For the dog's noses, I colored in the majority with the W9 and then finished off with the W7 in the top left for a little highlight. My unifying color on each of the images is going to be red. I'm going to have a little bit of something red on each of them. For that combo, I'm using R29, R39, and R59. This is my favorite red combo. So I'm adding a little bit of R59 for the shadow and then blending out with the R39 and then finishing with that really bright R29, which just pulls it all together. I wanted some pops of blue to tie into the pattern paper I'll be using, so I colored the little star in with B04 and B06 and also some of the lights on the string on the little Scotty dog. The third ornament I'm going to color with RV14 and RV17. I used the RV17 for the shadows and then blended with the RV14, and then I'll also use the RV14 for some of my lights. And then the final thing that remains is the little dog's sweater. For that I'm using G20, G21, and G24. I started with the G24 down underneath his belly, since that would be where the shadow would be, and then blended upward with the G21 and finished with the G20. And then I'll fill in the last remaining little light bulbs with that G21 as well. And now I'll trim these out with the matching dies. For my focal panel, I'm going to take the Christmas background stamp and ink that up with some Versamark ink. This is just a clear sticky ink that works great for embossing. Then I'm going to grab a piece of white cardstock and press that over the surface of the stamp and just rub that really well to make sure that all the ink transfers. And then I'll lift that up carefully and sprinkle on some silver pearl embossing powder. Once that's completely coated, I will melt that with my heat tool until I have a really nice and shiny tone-on-tone effect. I'll set that panel aside for now, and I'm going to work instead on the inside of my card. I want to do that before I adhere anything to the outside. So I'm using snow cone cardstock and some matching ink to stamp the wishing you peace, love, and licks sentiment, as well as the little dog in a Santa suit and a bone. Going back to my focal panel, I've trimmed that down using the A2 Stitch Rectangle STAX Set 2, and then I've also cut out the Ho 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 Die-namics from the center. I've added some foam tape to the back of that, including in all the little areas between the letters so that they stay raised up, and I'm just going to peel off the backer sheets and adhere that down over the Candyland pattern paper. I'm using the snowflake print on the Pretty Aqua. Then I'm going to grab my card base, and by the way, it is a standard A2 size card, so it's 4 1/4 wide by 5 1/2 tall. I'm going to adhere another sheet of that Candyland pattern paper over top. This one has a pink, green, and aqua stripe to it in different tones. Really fun and different for the holidays. And then I will add some liquid glue to the back of my focal panel and pop that down right over top in the center. Then I'm going to begin adding my images with a mixture of foam tape and liquid glue. So they'll have foam tape on any areas that are going to overhang into the Ho 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 sentiment that's cut out. So first I've got this little guy with the ornaments hanging from his antlers, too cute. And then the Santa hat little pup is going to go over on the left. I'm kind of staggering them back and forth up the card. So the little puppy with the string of lights will go back over on the right, and then my little doxy with the scarf is going to go back over on the left again. So I'm letting the pups hang over onto the sentiment just a little bit there, but I want to make sure that it's all still legible. To finish off the images, I'm going to add the little dog bone gift up in the top right corner. I can't seem to make a holiday card without some glitter on it, so I'm grabbing some crystal stickles and adding a little bit to the right side of the ornaments, also to all the little white areas on the dog's hats and scarves. I added some to the red ribbon on the dog bone ornament, and then to the doxy's red scarf as well. And then I added a little dot over each of the light bulbs on the string of lights. I could have left the card with just the Ho 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 for the sentiment, but this stamp set had so many funny sentiments that I just had to use another one. So I white heat embossed that onto some black cardstock and popped that down across the center H. And that is going to complete our card for today. There's another peek at the inside and a glimpse at all that sparkle and shine. So I hope you guys enjoyed the October edition of Christy Gets Crafty with My Favorite Things. If you did, please be sure to hit that thumbs up button, and you can also leave me a comment down below. I love to read your feedback and interact with you guys. Subscribe to My Favorite Things for more inspiring videos just like these here on screen. Bye-bye!